Hey there, I want to make a video today about scrying. I think it's undervalued practice and maybe has a lot of outdated ideas attached to it. And so I just wanted to give my perspective in hopes that maybe it will help somebody else further their own perspective about scrying. It's a cool practice and it needs to be talked about. So that's what I'm doing. So let's start with a foundation. Let's start with a definition. Traditionally, scrying is understood to be the practice of staring into a surface, usually like a reflective surface. So a crystal ball, a cup of liquid, a moonlit pond, or even like smoke or flame, really looking into any kind of surface in that allows images to arise and appear. And these images have a meaning to the person viewing them. And I think there's a huge connotation between scrying and your classic fortune telling kind of thing, which scrying can most certainly be used for divination purposes. I think there's so much more to it that I hate to see it be limited to only divination. Because I think, for me anyway, scrying is such a powerful tool when it comes to really just kind of peering in, checking in on your own subconscious mind. In the same way that dreams work, really. Dreams being the language of the subconscious, the symbolic representation of our subconscious stirrings. And scrying works in that same way, in my opinion. Because what we're doing is we're seeing images arise. We're seeing images that are not necessarily there, per se, but they are arising from our mind. They are arising from our subconscious. And I think this is a really powerful tool because we can see the contents of our subconscious mind. We can see what's going on in there in a way. For instance, one of my favorite forms of scrying, which we've all done if you think about it, is cloud scrying. Staring up into a big, beautiful cumulus cloud and seeing images in the cloud. And recognizing those images to be a part of my own subconscious mind, representing a stirring, a something going on in my own subconscious mind. So for me, I use scrying in a very loose way. I very rarely use it for something for divination, really. I very rarely use scrying for divination. If I need to get the scoop on something, I'm going to always use tarot for that. To me, tarot is my own personal first choice when it comes to divination. So I use scrying as a subconscious check-in. So how can I explain that? So for instance, here we go. Let's do this. For instance, today, the method of scrying I've been practicing is using water in a cup and taking blue food coloring, yellow works really well too, and just adding a drop or two, and letting the image, letting the ink disperse into the cup and the images arise from it by peering in. And so what I'll do is I'll scry into the cup or in the clouds, whatever I'm working with, and write down those things that I saw. I guess I'll share my personal things, or a few of them anyway. So for me today, during my scrying session earlier, I saw images of mountains. I saw a hand thumbing over, counting rosary beads. I saw a train filled with people. And so while those things may not have any meaning to you, obviously, they have a significant meaning to me. And through the practice of scrying over a period of time and keeping records of the things that you see, you can start to see patterns develop. You can start to see what these symbols, these images that you see, what they might mean for you personally. Because I've seen some wild, fantastic things during scrying sessions, some of which I have written down in a journal, and I have no clue what they could even mean. What my conscious mind can't make any sense of them. And I'm thinking that maybe someday down the road it will make sense. And that's kind of how this practice is really fun, because it's like a treasure hunt. Things are always constantly being learned. Knowledge is always being gained. And that's the thing with scrying. It's such an ephemeral, such a transient form, expression, that it does also have this kind of quality to it that's very ungraspable. So for me, I found it to be, because when I first started, I came in with it like in the traditional way of like having a question and then seeing and trying to interpret. And I always it just never really jived with me. But since I've kind of changed the way I practice scrying, it's taken on a whole depth of beneficial meaning to me. So for me now, when I'm scrying, I'll sit down and stare at the clouds or practice with this food color and water method, or staring into my crystal ball, or whatever technique. Even, looking up into the trees and seeing patterns or shapes arising out of that. I mean, I think you can scry with anything. For me, I can stare at a carpet and sometimes see patterns arise from that. That is scrying. So that's taking it way outside of the traditional kind of definitions of it. So for me, I will set a time to scry into whatever my medium is and just write down the images that I see. They change. Like for me personally, I'll see an image arise for a few moments and then kind of dissipate, or it's such a transient thing. I can't even really explain it. But for me personally, I'll see kind of successive images, things like passing. And so I just write those down. And then afterwards I can go back and see maybe some meaning there, and make connections and say, okay, I'm getting a message from this. This has a significance to me. And sometimes it may not have any significance. And I'm okay with that because I know that it's a part of my subconscious mind. It's there. And just because my conscious mind doesn't understand it, by bringing it up to the surface, it's doing something good. It's allowing expression, which is super important. And I think it's also interesting to note that for those of you who practice manifestation or visualization, scrying can be a good check-in to see how ingrained you've gotten that manifestation, that visualization, how ingrained you've got that into your subconscious mind. And I mean that by if you're scrying, so if you're working on manifesting something and you're practicing that visualization a lot, whatever your method is, when you scry, I've noticed for me when I'm really working heavily with some manifestation stuff, and then I do a scrying session, a lot of times I'll see images that correspond to what I'm trying to manifest, if that makes sense. And it lets me know that that manifestation work is being effective because it's getting down into my subconscious mind, which is where you want that stuff to go in order for it to manifest into your life. So in that way, I like to also use scrying as I think of it as checking in on your manifestations in a way, checking in on the contents of your mind. And sometimes it's also a form of shadow work. If your scrying sessions are bringing up some kind of ooky spooky images, then that may be reflecting to some hidden shadow aspects that are seeking expression as well. So scrying is really a super cool tool, and it really it benefits, you know, other aspects of our mental capabilities. I mean, scrying, I feel, benefits, it strengthens our imagination, it strengthens our visualization, it strengthens our manifestation abilities, because it's getting our mind to really function in very different ways than our day-to-day consciousness. And I feel like when we do that, we're just making our mind stronger, these stronger manifestation machines, honey. So yeah, that's kind of some of my thoughts on scrying. I think it's a really great practice, and it's not, doesn't have to be this fortune telling thing, and it doesn't have to, the true trick of scrying is being able to interpret what you see. Some people think seeing is the hard part, but once you can kind of figure out and experiment with your own psyche and your own perception, once you are able to start really seeing those images arise in whatever medium you're gazing into, that's kind of just the beginning, because the real mastery is being able to interpret those and to pull out that your own personal meaning, or to understand what aspects of your psyche that these images are representing and how to assimilate and incorporate those into our own betterment and growth. So I'm sure I could talk so much more about scrying, but I think that's going to be it for now. So I hope you find this interesting or helpful or something. But I really encourage scrying practice, so have fun. Be loose with it. And you might be surprised what images you see coming up from the murky depths. So fun. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.